issues and struggles. You really articulated the issues so well. As civil society organizations, we reaffirm our commitment to primary health care. Just before the conference, civil society networks coordinated statements shaped by views from civil society organizations right across the world. The UHC 2030 civil society engagement mechanisms and also the People's Health Movement came up with an alternative statement. And these statements are available on the People's Health Movement website and also on the UHC 2030 website. And I really want to encourage the delegates and the participants to go and visit those websites so that you can see the issues that are coming from the various constituencies represented by civil society here. Coming from Zimbabwe, a country that realized excellent health outcome indicators in its early years of independence, when it implemented, the primary health care approach and also fully implemented the Alma Ata principles, we became a model in those first 10 years of independence. I was still a young boy, but I know what it means to have a functional health delivery system. So primary health care to us is a catalyst for the general public to be able to access quality healthcare services. Unfortunately, maybe it also brings the narrative that health is not a privilege, but a right that has to be protected. And I feel as civil society organizations and other stakeholders, we may not have done enough to maintain that model that we had in terms of primary health care, implementation. So my message to the African leaders that are here, if you want to shape the health agenda, and if you don't want to set yourselves to fail, there is need for political will, for political commitment, for political leadership in terms of domestic health financing. And let the development partners come in to play a complementary role. Because if we are to rely on external funding, there's a danger that one day, if the politics is not right or is not seen to be right, they can pull the plug anytime and you'll be left exposed. We also need to eliminate the out-of-pocket costs at the point of use. And this also calls for Africa, especially coming from Africa, to come up with sustainable health financing strategies. And national health insurance can also be one such effort that we may need to look at as Africa. Palliative care for too long has remained a peripheral issue. But at some point, any one of us here may need some palliative care services. We have not done enough to support palliative care, both in terms of domestic financing and also in terms of integrating palliative care within our comprehensive health systems. Community health workers. Without community health workers, there is no primary health care. Unfortunately, maybe because majority of the community health workers are women, we have not done enough to support community health workers, both in terms of incentives, in terms of recognizing their role, in terms also of acknowledging the important role that they play. Because these are the cadres that have got a direct interface with the community. There is also need to regulate the private health sector. We need monitoring mechanisms for the private health sector, and especially the private medical insurance. what we see in South Africa, what we see in other countries, it's a cartel where the private health insurance can do things because there's poor regulation and there's poor monitoring. So it's an area that we need to look at in terms of monitoring. Health is a fundamental human right. A number of African countries have got opportunities to review their national constitutions. I feel it is important to use that window of opportunity to also embed the right to health within our national constitutions, just like what we have in the WHO constitution. So health should definitely remain a fundamental human right. Civil society organizations, we need to hold governments accountable. But right now, what you see, especially in Africa, we see civil society organizations dying a natural death because of lack of funding. And without that oversight role that is played by civil society, it will become very difficult for us to monitor, and hold authorities accountable. So I think it is important that development partners should also consider, supporting civil society, especially at national level. I hope from this meeting, the declaration of Astana will reach our national parliaments. Because parliaments, they play an important oversight role of holding the executive accountable. And if we don't take this declaration to our parliaments, it will become very difficult for our parliaments to monitor and also to support with resources during the budget processes. So this declaration should not just go to the parliaments, but it should also go to the people. And finally, let me say, primary health care is a people's issue. We need to put the people at the center of the focus. I thank you.